Welcome to the Dietmar Tonight Show. This second episode is about strategy and leadership. Our guests tonight are Guest 1 and Guest 2. And here is your host, Dietmar.
Good evening. Whenever we have no plan, no clue and no idea what we are doing, we need a strategy. This is why management happens in the middle of an organization, while strategic management happens at the top. What is a strategy, and why is a strategy not a plan? As an example, we find ourselves in London and we are at a random point and we want to get to Westminster without a map. We can guess a direction, walk, and after a while we can ask someone how close we are to Westminster, assuming that no one has a map and the locals have vague ideas of where Westminster is relative to their current position. Then we repeat, applying this set of rules until we reach our destination or we run out of energy. If our assumptions are correct, for instance, our assumption that Westminster is located within the M25, we will be successful as long as we don't give up. But we cannot predict how long it will take. It might take ages, and while our patience is tested, we will be tempted to doubt our assumptions. On the other hand, if we have a map, we can easily plan and optimize our route and predict the duration of our journey. So if we know the area, we are much better off. We follow our plan until it collides with reality. Then we panic. In 1990, a shipwreck hunter started to look for a ship named Lucona. You can Google the story, but this was his strategy. Scan a part of the Indian Ocean using a pattern and then enlarge the search until the budget is used up. Or find the shipwreck. In this case, it took him weeks to find the ship, but he found it. In 1999, an exhibition tried to find the body of George Mallory on the Everest, 75 years after he had tried to reach the summit and had not come back. The searchers started at a location they had chosen based on newly available information. Each of them scanned their dedicated section, and they were extremely lucky. Within hours, they found the remains of George Mallory. We can also talk about Pablo Picasso. I think he applied a strategy most artists use. Create something new and find a buyer for that. Later he said that he had tried many different styles, but whenever he painted his crazy distorted creatures, people paid a lot of money for them. So he stayed on that path. Andy Warhol tried to do something similar. When he started, pop art had just emerged. He came up with a specific strategy consisting of 3 rules. Paint two-dimensional, pop art. Use a technique which is fast, therefore he chose silkscreen printing. And paint something that people see every day. Applying this strategy, he painted/printed dollar notes, a car accident, Campbell's soup cans, and Marilyn Monroe. From then on, he mostly painted celebrities. Warhol died with a net worth of $250 million and never had a plan. But he had a good strategy and enough luck to become famous during his lifetime. Now, I think that there is one specific pattern behind all strategies, and this pattern is trial and error. The label trial and error comes from the scientist Conwy Lloyd Morgan. He had a terrier who had a very skillful way of opening the garden gate. That suggested that the dog was extremely intelligent, but in fact Morgan had observed and recorded the series of approximations by which the dog had gradually learn to open the gate. Trial and error as a strategy can lead to astonishing results without any insight. Nowadays, this is called agile. We assume that what the customer wants is within a certain scope, and we use one sprint after the other to find out what the customer really wants. 3 factors make it impossible for us to draw a map or plan a route. First of all, the customers can't explain and keep changing what they want. Secondly, the scope keeps changing. And finally, the streets, for instance, the available technologies are rapidly evolving. Every map we might use becomes quickly outdated and useless while we are still on the journey of our project. The only practical answer to that is a strategy of agile continuous delivery. That replaces the old management formula of planning and controlling. As a consequence, we need to abandon our desire for predictability and our hope to understand what we are doing. Our efforts will be successful sooner or later, or never. Our assumptions and rules have an influence on the result, but our success will also depend on luck to a far extent. And when we are successful, we will be perceived as smart and intelligent, but in reality we will have not much insight at all. On the other hand, there are also people who know what they are doing in a relatively stable environment. We call them classic experts. Forcing them to work agile will be frustrating. I don't want the bricklayers to apply a trial and error strategy when they build my house. Let them make plans and use milestones, set deadlines and measure their progress like we did in the old days. It will be much more efficient. What has leadership got to do with that? The difference between various levels of management is how far leaders look into the future. It is obvious that the first level managers are usually busy with planning and managing tasks in the near future. But any top level manager who is still planning does not understand their job. The top managers of an organization must look further into the future than anyone else. They must manage high degrees of uncertainty. Planning on that level is ridiculous for obvious reasons, which leaves them only one choice. Find a clever strategy. Don't stop until the money is used up and be lucky. In other words, leaders cope with the constant failure of plans. Leaders develop strategies as sets of rules. Leaders live with the uncertainty of trial and error. Leaders understand the limitations when it comes to predictions. In the movie Margin Call from 2011, the top boss says that he's in this job for one reason. He must guess what the future will be in 1 week, in 1 month, and in 1 year. That might sound scary. Therefore, I completely understand that leaders want to be like this man and this woman from Vikings Valhalla. Series 2 is full of surprising plot twists until we eventually find out that one of them had successfully planned every little detail from the very start. I find that highly entertaining, but real life is usually quite different from that. A strategy is the opposite of a plan. When we simply cannot come up with a plan because we cannot possibly know the details and the future, we either find a strategy or we accept that we are lost. Now, before we talk to our first guest, let's go into a short break.
20 rooms, for example, and you have to clear each room and get to the next one. If you die, you go right back to the beginning. But you keep your new resources. You get more powerful every time you die. Mattin's Game. 2024. Your ad could be here. it would be seen by at least a handful of people.
Welcome back. Here is our first guest, Selena Lyons.